This meeting is now in session. If everybody would rise and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Robert?
Please bow your heads. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Good job.
I say that every day.
Roll call, please.
President Jim Ferryman.
Present.
Vice President Bob Uten.
Here.
Secretary Arlene Schaefer.
Here.
Director Mike Schaefer.
Here.
And Director Art Perry.
Here.
Thank you.
Do we have any late communications?
Yes, Mr. President, we did receive one from Mr. Mosier, Mr. Jim Mosier, which copies of his comments and suggestions are before you.
Okay, thank you. Any comments on Mr. Mosier's remarks?
Probably wait till we get to that item, because he has an agenda item G14.
Do we have any ceremonial matters or presentations?
No, Mr. President.
I guess we're going to adjourn to closed session.
Do we want to put that off until the end?
In the beginning, it's up to you, but we've been starting to do it in the beginning of the meetings. But if you want to put it at the end, it's up to you.
I think we have a couple guests here that want to speak. If you guys don't mind, we can do it at the end. It's up to you.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I think we should do it at the end.
When?
I agree.
Do it at the end. That way the public doesn't have to stay here while we just, it could take us a while.
Okay, well, we're still in open session then. Entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Move for approval.
Mr. President, you still need to accept public comments.
Comments first.
Give public comments first.
Is there anyone in the,
Down to the bottom.
no, well, for some reason I got two different ones.
You gotta
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to address this board? Seeing none, we'll move along. Consent calendar. Do I hear a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. General Manager's report. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. President. First item on the agenda is to consider dismissing Citizens Advisory Committee members Albert Graham Jr. and Stephen Takahashi. According to your staff report, the Citizens Advisory Committee's handbook states that members need to attend all the meetings best they can. And if there are 3 unexcused absences, then they can be removed. The CAC member Albert Graham has missed 5 consecutive meetings, and CAC member Stephen Takahashi has missed 3 out of the last 4 meetings. So staff is recommending the dismissal of both Mr. Graham and Mr. Takahashi, and direct staff to go ahead and recruit or solicit applications to replace those 2 positions. I do want to mention also that Chairman Mike Carey supports the dismissal of Mr. Graham and Mr. Takahashi.
I have a question.
He supports Mr. Graham?
Supports dismissing them.
Oh, dismissing him, okay. Yeah.
When we dismiss someone like this and we voted on it, will you be writing a letter of,
Yes.
you know?
Yes, they'll be notified, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Just want to be sure.
But Scott, does the policy say three sessions missed in a row?
No, it's 3 within a year. 3 meetings within a year.
I had a question, Mr. President.
Mike?
Neither of them are on any of the ad hoc committees. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. Stephen Takahashi, he is on the Policy Review Committee, and he did not attend any of those meetings. They met twice already. He has not attended any of those meetings.
I said that my question was opposite of what I meant. I remembered that Mr. Takahashi had come to any meetings. So I'll move the staff or the recommendation to remove Mr. Graham and Mr. Takahashi from the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider Estancia High School Baseball Boosters Contribution Program and application.
Thank you.
Still employed by Estancia.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is an application submitted by the Estancia High School Baseball Boosters to requesting a contribution of $525 for a 7 by 12 foot outfield banner that would be placed in public viewing. The banner would have an advertisement or a promotion of CMSD programs. I believe have we done the baseball team before in the past? Okay, so we have purchased in the past, and for the baseball booster, we've done it in the past. So staff is seeking direction. Actually, our recommendation is to first, you need to establish a purpose that CMSD is trying to serve as a contributor to the Estancia High School Baseball Booster Program, and describe how the expenditures will advance CMSD's purpose, and then consider approving contributing $525 for a banner.
Arlene?
Do we put out some kind of poster or something?
I've been in contact with the baseball program. In fact, they're the ones that solicited me over this. They are doing a 7-foot by 12-foot banner, which is double the size of the ones we get at the football stadium and at the basketballs. They're enormous. That's enormous. I'm going to support this because we have a legacy, if you will, of supporting athletic programs in town, and to have a banner like that, that's pretty big.
What's it going to say?
It's going to have probably the same as we do at the football stadium, promoting our recycling programs or whatever else.
Oh, okay.
The green waste support.
Yeah,
What was the amount? 500?
525.
525.
I move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, consider approving out-of-state travel for the finance manager and the accountant to attend 220 Springbrook User Conference in Portland, Oregon.
Before we get to that, Mr. Mayor and Mr. General Manager, when Director Perry stepped out, I think that was out of an excess of caution, but he doesn't have an actual legal conflict. You're supposed to identify your legal conflict, but I think it's because he's associated with the Estancia program and might have been employed there, but he wasn't required to. But we were supposed to state on the record why he stepped out, and that was the reason, as I understand it. It's out of an excess of propriety, you might say.
An abundance of caution. Okay.
Which I've done at everything that Estancia's been asking for over the years. I've always stepped out.
We voted on that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did.
Consider, item 4, consider approving out-of-state travel. Wait,
Number 3.
we just did that. Number 3, consider, well, we just did that one. We
I
need,
think you read the item, Mr. President. I
hadn't
think you just
approved
need
yet.
to take action. I interrupted you. I apologize.
yeah.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second it.
Are we on Estancia or what are we?
Number 3,
Oh,
out-of-state travel for finance.
okay,
manager.
out-of-state travel for finance manager. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Can you go by and see my granddaughter who goes to school in Portland while you're there? Just Tell her Grandpa said hello.
We usually get a report back after they come back, don't we, Scott? Get a report from them.
I don't
Their
think that
attendance.
should be in the report.
Yes, we'll give a report.
Item 4, consider approving out-of-state travel for maintenance wastewater superintendent Steve Cano and maintenance worker 1, John Merlo, for attending the AC20 conference in Reno, Nevada.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, 2019 year-end report.
Thank you, Mr. President. So every year, about this time of year, staff puts together a year-end report to describe the accomplishments the district made during the past year. So in your staff report is the 2019 year-end report. As you might recall, the board did establish the year-end review ad hoc committee that consisted of President Fairman and Secretary Schaefer. That committee reviewed a draft version of the year-end report, made any comments or suggestions. We did meet last week, and it was a good thing we did meet because we did catch some errors in the report, also made some suggestions, some revisions to the report. So it was a good meeting. We made those changes, and the final report is before you tonight, and we're able to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? I'd entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, receive and file the 2015 through 20 strategic plan quarterly update.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a report we submit to you on a quarterly basis on the status to achieving our strategic goals in our 5-year strategic plan. I did receive some questions from Vice President Uten regarding some of the goals, and I'd like to address those questions to you tonight. The one question Vice President Uten had was on section 1.2 regarding inflow, and it was the smoke testing. Vice President Uten inquired if we installed a flow meter as a result of the smoke testing, and the answer to that question is yes. We did install a flow meter, and we was able to determine from the Christmas storm, which was the last significant storm we had, determine that inflow is occurring at the Mendoza tributary area. We believe that inflow is coming from the fairgrounds, and so the next step is when we have another significant rainstorm, we want to go on that property to try to see if there's any openings that are leading down into the storm drain. They might be leaving openings, and that's where water's getting in. But we still have the flow meters in right now, so I think at least for another 3 more months.
Wasn't one of the flow meters installed to check the flow coming from the fairgrounds?
It was coming from the tributary area. We were suspecting it was coming from the fairgrounds, so I believe they installed it near the fairgrounds. So I don't know exactly where it was, but
Yeah.
yes.
Maybe we could get a study session update on that.
Sure, absolutely.
Art?
Do we have to get prior approval before going on the fairgrounds? I mean, get it now and let them know that we're coming when it rains again?
Not necessarily, because if we do that, they might give them a heads up, and then they start shutting it down. We want to kind of catch them by surprise, and so if it rains, we would go on the property and say, hey, we want to look.
Do you have any legal problem with that, going on the state property?
Well, we can't just go in there without permission. We would ask their permission to go on there, but we would just show up when it rains and hey, we would like to go see this. So, no.
In that same regard, Scott, I brought this up before, but I have a concern about the state hospital grounds. And have we ever gone in there to look to see if we can? That's a huge area that I would just suggest we put that on the radar somewhere down the line to check it as well, because it's gone. We don't even know if they're cleaning their lines anymore. Realizing that their usage has gone way down over the last several years. But I still think we may have some issues in there.
And that could all change too if the state has their way and they want to use it as a homeless shelter or for mental health. I mean, there's talk about that. I think that was talked at the liaison committee, and if they do go down that road, then I suggest we do a flow study.
And that's what I was in the back of my mind is as they make changes in there, whether it be that or housing or whatever, I think it'd be a good opportunity
This
for us
is
to
an
look at.
off-agenda item.
Timing.
What?
Off-agenda item.
No, it's got to do with inflow reduction.
Not this particular study, but okay. I think we should be talking about that because we have talked about it.
Well, at the liaison meeting,
Yeah.
a lot of ideas popped up from the city what their plan is, that they submit tomorrow. So I'll give you an update when we get to that.
So, Mr. President, if I may proceed, there was a few more questions that Vice President Uden sent to me. I'd like to address the board. The second question was regarding strategic goal 1.5 regarding cleaning our sewer system. Vice President Uden inquired if we hired National Plant Services to help with our cleaning. And the answer is yes, but they didn't start till January 6th. And this report reflects everything done up to December 30th. That's why it wasn't in the report. Okay. Then the next question, Vice President.
Back up. I saw them today coming out of Mesa Verde West.
National Plant Service? Yes.
Went onto Harbor Boulevard, so I'm not sure where they were at, but I saw they have two trucks, one in
Yes.
the front, and one in the big one in the back.
Yeah, they're making progress. Yes. Yes.
They're black or brown.
Yes,
I'm not sure.
correct. And then the third question Vice President Uden asked was, did the district receive a diversion grant from the Integrated Waste Management Division? We did receive a grant, a household hazard waste grant from the county, and that was for $50,000.
Oh, it wasn't a waste diversion grant. It was household hazardous waste.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And then under strategic goal 3.4, Vice President Uden inquired if Steve Cano, who's our wastewater maintenance superintendent, if he's currently the president of SARBS, which stands for the Santa Ana River Basin section of the California Water Environment Association. And the answer is yes, he's currently the president of SARBS.
My question was why didn't we list him on that list?
Forgot to, so
Yeah, yeah.
a mistake on my
Okay.
end.
That's what
And I think
I said on
that was it for the street goal. Yes, thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Jim, I had a question on just one
Yeah,
item.
Mike.
Scott, you had put on 2.3 as an ongoing completion. Are we planning on scheduling more talks in that regard, or is that just for Ms. Johnson, Mrs. Johnson, or whatever?
Ongoing discussion. Well, 2.3 is ongoing, and I believe that 2.3 is comprehensive education program, and I think that ties into nicely to the Solid Waste Ad Hoc Committee's next item,
Okay.
which is to review the proposals from some consultants that will help us with our public education program.
What I was getting at, that ongoing isn't, we're not doing another session with Mrs. Johnson.
No, what ongoing means is that this goal there's really no completion timeline. It's just continually ongoing.
Okay.
I move approval of the strategic plan quarterly update.
This is a receive and file, Mr. President.
I move that we receive and file the strategic plan quarterly update.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, I believe. Receive and file fiscal year 2019 to 20 budget review mid-year.
Thank you, Mr. President. Caitlin Tran, our finance manager, will be giving this report.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. In front of you is the mid-year quarterly budget report for fiscal year 2019-20. As of December 31st, 2019, a total of 48.1% of the solid waste budget has been expended. Staff anticipate a savings of $57,300 at fiscal year end. The solid waste personnel account will have a savings of $51,000 at the end of the fiscal year due to the vacancy of the part-time accounting clerk position, staff leave without pay, and a minimal savings from the board salaries account. Professional services, as of December 31st, 2019, the district has completed the customer satisfaction survey, the waste hauler internal audit, and the waste composition study. There is a saving of $3,600 from the customer satisfaction survey. This will offset other unexpected costs later. Professional information, education, community promotion has a saving of $2,000 due to the 75th anniversary and the state of the district events that were completed under the budgeted amount. Utilities, building maintenance. The solar panel installation project at the headquarters was completed at the end of 2018. Since then, the electric cost has been reduced. Staff anticipate a savings of $900 from the solid waste utility account. As you see on the chart on the attachment A, page 2, July 2018, the electric bill was $2,697, and July of last year, 2019, it was only $425. Special programs, household hazardous waste. The district continues to sponsor the HHW collections at the OCC Recycling Center. The district was awarded a total of $30,000 Cal Recycle HHW grant through September of 2022, or until the money runs out. As of December 31st, the district spent only $5,800. Staff is in the process of submitting requests for grant reimbursement. Anti-scavenging. Staff did not anticipate spending the $5,000 budgeted. $3,600 of the budget was transferred to the professional services account to cover for the waste composition study. Battery recycling. The program started in September of 2019 and will end in March 2020. There are 3 additional schools participating this year. Due to the increase in participation, this account will be fully expended. Capital outlay as of December 31st, capital outlay amended budget of $8,988 is expected to be fully expended. The district is currently in the process of updating computer software hardware, replacing 2 rooftop air conditioning units, and replacing the audio-visual system in the boardroom. Wastewater fund. As of December 31st, a total 46.5% of the wastewater fund operating budget has been expended. At this time, staff anticipate a budgetary saving of $167,800 at the end of the fiscal year. The wastewater personnel account will have a savings of $129,300 due to the vacancy of the part-time accounting clerk position, staff leave without pay, and the board salaries. Sewer inspection rebate program. As of December 31st, only $6,250 has been reimbursed. Staff will continue to promote this program and expect to receive more application. Staff anticipate this program will have a savings of $10,000 at the end of the year. Utility buildings, due to the solar panel installation, staff anticipate a saving of $10,400 from the wastewater utility account. Capital outlay account is expected to have a saving of $17,000 at the end of the fiscal year. The new Vector, the superintendent, and the utility trucks, they all have been purchased and received. Now I will go over some of the highlights of the revenues the district received as of December 31st, 2019. The district has received approximately $2.7 million from the solid waste annual assessment and approximately $3 million from the wastewater annual assessment for the fiscal year. The additional container charges generated $26,997 for the first quarter. CR&R received 20% of this amount. The district should receive the second quarter revenues by the end of January 2020. The district has received $95,744 in investment earnings. Interest is initially recorded 100% to the solid waste fund and allocated to other funds quarterly. This report presents the total amount of investment earnings before allocation. Residents of newly developed properties pay a prorated amount during the year until they can be placed on the county assessment. As of December 31st, the district received $98,166 in the solid waste fund and $9,890 in the wastewater fund. Sewer permits inspection fees. The district has received $28,240 in permit revenue and $65,510 in inspection revenue. More permits were issued and inspection fees were collected compared to last year due to additional projects in the city. Property taxes. The district budgeted $320,000 in property tax revenue this fiscal year and has received $167,000 as of December 31st, 2019. That's the end of my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, Art?
I'm not sure if you can answer it tonight, but back to the annual charges, we received $2,773,102 from the solid waste, but how much are what we were expecting?
We budgeted, it's on the last page of attachment A. We budget in the solid waste approximately $5.1 million, so we're receiving more than half.
What we expected then, basically.
Yes. Yes.
Do we have any past years that people still owe us?
Oh, yes, yes. Yes, there are, but we cannot tell who paid and who haven't paid.
Can we tell who still owes us? No.
The county can't tell us that information.
County's pretty good at going after them.
Yeah, they go after him.
Jim had a question. Caitlin, on the property tax, we're at the kind of at the middle of the fiscal year, so we're right on track for what you budget us receiving. It looks like, or slightly over half, right?
Yes.
You would expect us to get that full 300 and whatever it was,
320,000.
Yeah. Are those the funds that we've traditionally, and Scott, maybe you can chime in on this, those are the funds that we've traditionally kept for rate stabilization, or we've used
In
those
Fund
for
10.
rate stabilization and rate reductions, right? We don't have, we haven't discussed that for at least a couple of years. Are we still, how much is in that account? Do we have, I didn't see it. Do we have considerable funds in that account?
Like it's in the investment report.
Well, I'm not a financial guy too much, and I looked for it, but I couldn't find
On
it.
the
So,
second page.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Do you know what that answer is?
Talking about the property tax, right?
Yeah. And I don't,
You may not be able to get it tonight. Okay.
Davis.
Director Schaefer. In years prior to this current fiscal year that you're in, 1920, those funds were budgeted in the solid waste fund, and all the funds were recorded in the solid waste fund, and they were used for rate stabilization, so they've been fully expended year in and year out. And then beginning with the 1920 budget, and discussions happened during the budget process, we decided that it would be good from a visibility standpoint to break those out and create a general fund and put all those funds into the general fund. You have fully appropriated all those funds, using them for a variety of things, and what was left over to move to continue to be used for rate stabilization.
That's what I was. I didn't think that we had a pot of money sitting there somewhere.
No,
we're not. We don't do that. I've
No,
never
we
seen
don't.
us do that. So I just wanted to make sure.
And through the budget cycle, budget process, the board of directors already approved $50,000 to the wastewater fund for the donation to the portable.
That's
Yes.
That.
And then the rest stay in the solid waste fund, or will be transferred to solid waste fund to stabilize the rate.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Art?
How much do we have left in the unrestricted funds? Do you have an amount? We spent the 50,000 from the unrestricted funds. Do what amount do we have left? You may not be able to answer tonight, but
I don't have that number right now. Do you know that?
Well, you can report that to us at a later time.
I knew you might not be able to get it tonight, but just for curiosity, because I knew because we had a question for Mr. Mosher about using the unrestricted funds, but it was just to see if we have a balance still.
I will get that to you. You do? Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
I think it's in the ballpark of 300 some between 300 and 400,000, isn't it?
Director Perry, on the unrestricted funds for the solid waste fund, that's approximately $2.4 million that is sitting there as being unrestricted. Of that, though, we have a revenue dry period that we need about $2.7 million to get through. So when we have no revenue coming in from May through November, so really at this point you're short by about $350,000.
By the end of the payments from the county, we'll be back up to that amount.
You'll be back up to the point to where you can get through your revenue dry period again. Yes, yes, to the 2.4 million. Yes.
Okay, anything else? We're going to move along. Receive and file that fiscal year 2019. Do I hear a motion on that, or do we need to? Okay, on that case, we'll move along to number 8. Receive and file the popular annual financial report for the year end June 30th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very pleased to present to you the district's popular annual financial report for the year ended June 30th, 2019. As you know, every public agency in California is legally required to complete a comprehensive annual financial report, or the CAFR. And that basically is it's a large document that explains to the public of how much money you spent that year. It's a true account of what you spent. And the problem with the CAFRs, or the challenge with the CAFRs, is that they can be very intimidating to read. They're very thick. There are a lot of pages. It's just a lot of numbers. And if you're, most people aren't financial analysts or accountants, and it's hard to understand what they're reading. And so to simplify that, we create the PAFR, the Popular Annual Financial Report. It takes those hundreds of pages and condenses it down to a dozen pages using a bunch of visual graphs, so anyone can easily understand what the agency spent that year. I'm very pleased that we were able to complete our PAFR for the third consecutive year. As I mentioned in the staff report, I was surprised to learn that not many agencies complete PAFRs. As you can see in the staff report, only 16 municipalities in California have completed a PAFR. Only 6 special districts, and we're the only one in Orange County that does it, which I don't understand why, because a PAFR, if people say they want to be transparent, well, this is about as transparent as you can be, right? It's all about being transparent and open. And so I'm very pleased that we were able to complete our PAFR, and I want to commend Caitlin and Lou Tran for doing excellent work on the PAFR. We're going to submit it again for a possible another award from the Government Finance Officers Association. So stay tuned, but happy to answer any questions. And again, it's my pleasure to present to you our PAFR.
Where do we send that report to? or do we just keep it ourselves?
It's on our website. It's in our website under the finance page. So you'll see right under the CAFR, all our PAFRs in CAFR, so it's easily downloaded. I know we sit in the CAFR to say, do we sit in the PAFR to say? I don't think we do. No, it's not required, so we don't. So we just have it on our website and send it to GFOA because it's not legally required to do it.
I had a question on one of the charts, and I talked to Mark on the way in, and I understand it now.
Congratulations. I'm appalled that more agencies don't do that.
I thought you were talking about me.
Congratulations, Caitlin. Forget about director.
You're used to the abuse.
That is a good job. How long does that take to do that? For how much effort do we put into that?
It's shorter and faster than the CAFR for sure.
You're not supposed to say that. You should say hours of grindless work. That would make
weekend
Director
after
happy.
weekend.
Not as long as the CAFR.
Okay, we're going to receive and file item 8, item 9, refund sanitary assessment, APN 42202-11.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nabila Guzman is going to give the initial report on this, and then District Councilor Alan Burns will be available to answer any questions and provide further input.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. In November 2019, Mr. Michael Brigg approached district staff and to inquire about his unusually high sanitary assessment on his property taxes. After looking at his property taxes and pulling up his account, I noted that in 2006, district staff unintentionally changed his home from a single-family home to a single-family home with 6 units. So that is why his charge was unusually high. In December 2019, the district refunded 4 years' worth of overpaid sanitary charges in the amount of $1,380.51. Mr. Michael Brigg is here today requesting a refund for the other 10 years in the amount of $3,501.57. And attached to the staff report is his initial letter, and additionally, he did send another letter this afternoon.
Any questions?
Has the board had an opportunity to see the letter that Mr. Brick submitted?
Yeah, we did.
We have it.
You have it? Okay. If it pleases the president and the board, I'm prepared to respond to Mr. Brick's comments, and then Mr. Brick can maybe make his comments in rebuttal to mine. Maybe if that makes the most sense to you.
Sure.
You received a copy of Mr. Brick's letter, and as Nabila explained, it was based on a misclassification of his property, maybe in 2006, 2007, when his property was listed as being 6 units as opposed to a single unit. So he's seeking a refund for the entire amount of time. I think he's been given a refund for about 4 years. In his letter to you, he cited many different provisions of the law. Some are on point, others are not. Proposition 218 established different rules for assessments from property-related fees, so to the extent the letter has assessments called out, that's the wrong law, but the property-related fees is the correct law. Also, the taxes are not, those aren't appropriate sections, and even though one section is listed 5096 of the Revenue and Taxation Code, and the next section, 5097, it says you can only get a refund for 4 years. So we're really talking about fees. And under Prop 218, as you know, we do go through a procedure. We do 45-day notice. We have a public hearing, and to the extent you have read his letter, you recognize the criteria you have to do for a property-related fee, and you follow that every time you make those findings. So we were correct in how we assessed the fee, but what happened was a clerical error for Mr. Brick in that his property was misclassified. So there was a refund made, and the problem with a refund of 4 years is that Mr. Brick would like the entirety of it. And that brings into play the statute of limitations and the claim statute. And as you know, all actions, or maybe as you know, all actions, debts, causes of action have a statute of limitations. You can only go back so far on any kind of a debt something is owed, and that includes government debts. And it's usually from 1 to 4 years, but some of them are even longer. As you saw with the sewer statute, the legislature actually made an exception and said for sewer connections prior to 1992, it was unlimited, absolutely unlimited. If you were not connected to the sewer system, had a septic tank, and were charged, you could get an unlimited refund. But the legislature said for other claims, it's 6 months. So it's my opinion that the proper refund should have been 6 months. Excuse me. My understanding is I'm not sure it's going to help. Thank you. I've got these. Yeah, I'm sorry I have allergies. He was given a 4-year statute, so a 4-year refund, so I think he's been given more than what I would have recommended under the law. This is now in your lap, and you have to deal with this, and it's unfortunate because, obviously the gentleman, our customer, was overcharged. You have a statute of limitations. The gift of public funds comes into play. And although, thank you so much, although Mr. Brick has portrayed it as, you're doing a wrong to the taxpayer, actually what the board has to do is say, am I being fair to the taxpayers by not asserting the statute of limitations? Because is that a gift of public funds? And should we be waiving our legal defenses in favor of somebody based on moral or other grounds instead of standing on it? So that's what's before you today in your decision on this item, and then in an item that will come before you again on the next item. But you have to, and there's been a few cases in which a public body has waived the statute of limitations or has decided to give beyond the statute of limitations, and they've been challenged in court. And there's just a few cases, but the courts have all found some reason why they said, well, in this case it was okay because of something. And that's what's before you right now, and you have to make that determination. You have adopted an ordinance. You've put it in chapter 9.02, and you said that your ordinance would be for these kind of claims, it'd be 180 days. And if you filed under protest, where you write it on your taxes under protest, you get 4 years. But otherwise, for trash refund, it would be 1 year. So 6 months for sewer and 1 year for trash, and unless it was before 1992, then it's that way. That's what's for you today, Mr. Judge. Happy to answer any questions you probably want to hear from Mr. Brick, or at some point.
Art, did you have a question?
I know in the past we had a lot of refunds, but did we go back 3 years for those? This is like 10 years ago when we had a lot of refunds that we paid back to I thought that it was for 3 years that we went back, but I might be wrong.
I'm not sure. It could have been because 3 years would be the general statute of limitations for an obligation based on statute. Obligation based on contract is 4 years, so that might have been correct. And it's possible that Government Code 53082 was enacted more recently than when we gave those refunds, and that really kind of cleared it up for us, saying here's what your statute of limitations is, and that was in response to the city of Los Angeles that had overcharged a whole bunch of people, and that were on septic tanks, and the court said, okay, we're going to sort this out. The legislature did a bill and said this is the new rule. And that's the rule that you have in your ordinance.
We haven't seen any of these refunds in a number of years. So I think we thought at one point we had them all scored away. So I think that the 4 years is probably where we need to stay as a refund, not violate any other state laws.
Jim had a question. The original finding out that there was an error, did we discover that, or did the ratepayer discover that?
Mr. Brick discovered it, looking at his property taxes, and he contacted the district and came in to ask questions of how our charges were formulated and placed.
That was done last year,
November 2019, yes.
November of what?
2019, so just 2-3 months ago.
Any other questions? And if not, we're going to have Mr. Brick come up if he would like to.
I'll say something, yes. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
We have to record you.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Brick. First, I apologize for the lateness of the letter. That was not my intent to slip it in, but case law, I'm not a lawyer, and case law reading and finding it is not easy. Thank you that some points were right and some points weren't. I did my best. What I see is two things here. First, I believe as a taxpayer, there's a reasonable reliance and trust on CMSD to present me with the correct rates. And so I paid them in good faith based on your accurate assessment. It was not accurate. I had no reason to believe otherwise. There's 5 or 6 ancillary taxes on my tax bill. Some are $1.70 and $7, and I think the other sewer fee is $3.93 or something like this. So there was no reason for me to believe that it was dramatically out of line. As to it being accidental, I question that because I don't think this was a single keystroke error where someone just hit a wrong button. You would have to misclassify me and then not only say I was responsible for multiple units, but then put in how many multiple units I was responsible for, along with taking away the other unit's responsibility and making them zeros. So that is one problem where I don't see this was accidental. I'm not saying it was necessarily done with malicious intent, but it's hard to defend it as being an accidental when you have to do multiple keystrokes to put me in that category. You again reclassified it 2 years ago incorrectly. Again, that's kind of a moot point because it was refunded, but another mistake was made intentionally. They intentionally had to reclassify it, and another mistake was made. The other thing that I see is that while I was paying this tax, double paying taxes for these other parcels, you also billed the other parcel owners for this and double dipped. So you double taxed taxpayers. And that's, I'm not a lawyer, but pretty sure that's a big no-no. So I don't think you can do that. What I believe can be done is that you can consider this null and void, set this aside, set the tax aside, or the additional taxes aside, or the incorrect taxes aside, and refund the money. I'm not asking for interest. I'm not asking for penalties. I'm not asking for anything extreme. I'm just asking for the money that I paid that I shouldn't have been taxed for in the first place. Pretty simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Any comments or questions?
Question from the staff. In those prior years, did each one of those, how many units you have? 6? I mean in a complex.
There's 11 parcels, 11 units. There's 6 buildings, but 11 parcels. So I don't know which numbers they took their numbers from.
My question is, did we research that the other people were paying?
Yes, after taking a look at Mr. Brick's address, I did look at it's an infill development, so one of those really long developments where each house is a individual parcel and they all share the driveway. So all the other homes, all but one were paying a single family home sewer fee. One was exempt, and then his parcel was billed as single family with 6 units. So staff at that time thought that his parcel was the entire thing.
I think that we got to determine what we absolutely have to do, or it's legal for us to do in this case. This gentleman wasn't treated properly, and it was inadvertent, and we all know that. But we got to take care of business and take care of our ratepayers when these kind of things happen. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I feel very strongly about this. So, Mike, did you have another?
Just in looking at the charges since 2003 and 4 on the chart that was included with Mr. Brick's letter. His ownership started in 1999, so I assume from 1999 to 03 the charges were correct. And then all of a sudden in 2006, we see that spike. Did we get any inquiries from anybody that we know of back in 2003? Or I know
This is the only property that I saw this error happen.
Who made the error?
It doesn't, it just says,
I'm sorry, I'm not looking for a person. Was that error done here or at the county level?
staff, CMSD staff.
Why would we change someone's classification in the middle of an ownership?
So you are correct. From 1999 to 2006, his property was assessed correctly, single-family home. It might have been that neighboring parcels were built or new homes were, sometimes they subdivide. So something must have been going on that block that staff at that time took a look at the parcels and thought at that time, oh, this parcel is a mistake. This parcel is actually a single-family home with multiple units instead of one. So it's hard to say what happened, but typically when we reassess
No way of knowing.
halfway through the year, it's because
that's
there's-
several years. We're not.
No one here was at the district at that time, so we can't have an affirmative answer for you.
Sorry?
No one at the district was here at the district. was
Yeah, and
employed.
I
So we can't give you a
apologize.
definite answer. So we're just assuming right now.
Yeah, what I was looking for was a pattern, and kind of going back to President Ferryman's comment about what can we do legally. I think, Alan, you've answered that. Legally, we're only supposed to give 6 months based on our statute, correct?
That's correct.
So why did we refund him 4 years?
I'll fall on the sword on that one. That was my call. I mean, because I just remember I thought we refunded 4 years.
Okay.
And the board gave the general manager authority to refund up to $5,000. This was less than $5,000. 4 years less than, so I made the decision.
Okay. One of the things that, if we decide to refund Mr. Brick his entire amount back to 06, 07, setting a precedent from the agency doing that could be dangerous. Correct? I mean, we could have a whole bunch of other people coming in and saying, you did it for one ratepayer, why aren't you doing it? Kind of going back to what Jim said, we need to stick with what legally we're obligated to do.
If you were to refund it, then you would probably need to put some facts in the record in case you were to get a taxpayer challenge saying, why did you waive the statute of limitations and give away district money? And then the other reason would be if you establish that precedent, then maybe you do establish an expectation that anybody that comes before the board is going to get more than what the ordinance says they get. And you've given us the ordinance to tell us how to work this thing. And that would be our concern then. Not a concern. I mean, you would probably want you to change the ordinance so that we
I would assume you would,
appropriately
yeah.
with these matters and not have come before you.
And did you get a chance to see the letter that we received today?
Yes, I did. That's why I was saying I went through it, and about a third of it is on point, and the other 2/3 may be not on point because he's got fees and taxes and assessments all mixed together, and some statutes are correct and some are not.
He cited several cases in his defense, Bighorn, Silicon Valley. I mean, do any of those apply to us in any way?
They all apply, but they're taken out of context, and every one of them says, yeah, even though you owe money, there's always a statute of limitations. No matter, even for regular taxes or anything, there's a statute of limitations. So,
Do you have a comment, Mike?
My understanding is if they're erroneously done or they're not lawful taxes, the statute of limitations didn't apply. Did I misunderstand something?
yes, that's my opinion. That is not a correct statement of the law. Certainly, you did quote those statutes correctly, and they say what they say, but then you have to read it in context, and Yeah, there's a statute. There is a statute of limitations to almost everything except for the sewer fees before 1992.
Bob, did you have a comment?
What would his request be in total? Is it around $10,000, you said?
3,000. How much additional money is he asking?
What's an additional $3,500 something dollars?
Takes it to about $6,000 total, Bob. Or 50.
No, we paid Mr. Brick $1,380 with 51 cents.
So the difference
His
is
total request for the 10 years is $4,882.
3,501.57. Is that? Yeah.
it was around 4,000, and we've and you gave him how much, Scott?
$1,380.
Around $3,000.
That's what he's requesting, an additional $3,000. Yes, $3,501.57.
You know, I think I know what the statute of limitations says, but in this case, you know, somebody made a mistake, and I think the statute of limitations, you know, could protect this agency, but I'm in favor of, you know, rebating the money that I think we owe him and incorrectly collected. But
I think we just need to be straightforward and say, hey, we made a mistake. We're human. We're trying to correct it and give the taxpayer, you know, his money's worth. We have to take the high road in this, and that's my opinion. Arlene?
I think it would be important if we do return the money that we do findings. The findings are so important to me to, you know, because if you do the findings, it actually kind of frees you from the part of saying, you got it, why can't I? Because it stipulates why we're giving this out. So just to, you know.
We don't have any reason to believe that we've got 1 million of those out there. I mean, hopefully this is an isolated incident, and we can, you know, get it taken care of without.
Well, Mr. President, the next item is going to talk about this issue too. So it's not an isolated issue. So occasionally we will have these issues come up. They will come up.
I'd just like to make a quick comment, and I empathize, and I understand what you're all saying about refunding, and we made a mistake in the high road. The one thing, and this is not an attack at Mr. Brick in any way, shape, or form, but if I was paying $30 since 1999, and then all of a sudden my bill jumped up to $242, I wouldn't wait 10 years to bring it up. I would have called the district in 2002, 6, and 7. I'm just saying that there's some personal responsibility on the part of the ratepayer as well. I mean, we deal with thousands of people. This is one case where I think the ratepayer should have let us know back when it first happened. I think there's some personal responsibility that was left on the table as well.
I agree with Mike. I think giving funds back from the public funds back is against my, you know, what I believe in, because we've been over hundreds of these cases, you know, years ago, and we only went to that limit. It used to be 3 years, I believe. We only went to that 3 years, and other people, it was like 10 years that we could have gone back. We kept it at the 3. Now it's 6 months, but we already went to 4 years. I think and my purview is we just leave it as is and deny the request. But I'm not sure if I'm going to get outvoted, but that's where I stand.
Are you making a motion?
I'm not making a motion. I'll make a motion and we reject the request and leave it as is.
Second.
Well, I don't agree, and I'm going to vote against the motion.
Someone needs to make a substitute motion then.
What's that?
Someone needs to make a
yeah.
substitute motion. Well, you can make a substitute motion to override this motion.
Sounds like that was a 2-3. vote for denial, the motion did not carry. So then you could consider another motion.
I make a motion, that we pay him for the identified overcharges.
In your motion, if it doesn't carry, it would be appropriate, as Director Schaefer has mentioned, to make some kind of findings so you have a defense in case you were to get a taxpayer's lawsuit as to why you waived the statute of limitations.
What are those findings, though?
Yeah, what are the findings?
That staff inadvertently charged Mr. Brick the incorrect amount over a certain period of time. I'm not sure how to describe the findings.
You could just help us out with some kind of rationalization of why you did this, so that if we were to get a lawsuit, we could defend.
Once again, our staff made a mistake, period. That's the premise that we're relying on, and speaks
Generally,
for
could be a
itself.
mistake, but maybe you could add also that the claimant did not have sufficient facts to put him on notice, that he should have made further inquiry and should have brought it to our attention, or something along those lines.
I add that to my motion.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor that we need to, but don't we need to?
We need a motion.
Okay.
And a second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries. I hope you're satisfied with this. It's, we like to stand behind our staff, and we like to think we're doing a good job, but we're human, and sometimes we make mistakes.
Thank you. This was not punitive. I didn't want anything extra. Just what I overpaid.
Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, let's move along. Where are we? Number 10, refund of sanitary and trash assessment. Well,
Again, Mr. President, Fairman, Nabil Guzman will be giving his report, and then District Council Alan Burns will be available to answer any questions.
Mr. President, members of the board, in December 2019, Mr. Brick gave me a call and said he had a friend that also had funny charges on his property taxes, and if I would take a look. So they came later that week. I looked up the address at 540 Bernard Street and found that this property was actually misclassified by the city of Costa Mesa. This is a single-family home, and the city of Costa Mesa has it listed as a multifamily with 3 units. So we had been overcharging for sewer and trash collection. I contacted the city of Costa Mesa that day to verify that they still had the property misclassified, and I confirmed with the planning department that they do have this property as a multifamily 3 units. Every other property on the street is multifamily except for this property. So on the item, on the staff report, we have a refund request for 4 years, similar to what was given to Mr. Brick initially. Total sewer charge request is of $279.62, and a total of $1,745.76 for trash. I am available for any questions.
Daughter of Sid Sofer? I think it is.
I think it is. Sid Sofer owned some property in Newport and Costa Mesa, and
Right across the street from me.
he got in trouble with the city, but that's another story.
I have a question for Nabila, Jim, if it's okay. So the city misclassified the property, and our staff didn't make any mistake. We went along with what the city said.
So initially, as you know, the city staff was in charge of the sanitary records or charges. So since we got our Springbrook system, or as far as back as I could go, it's always been classified that way because those are the records we received from the city.
How do we know how far back her misclassification went?
Beginning
She's
of
only
time.
requesting these years. Is that right?
No, she was not requesting. After speaking with legal counsel, he suggested that we do 4 years, similar to what was given to Mr. Brick.
So we're looking at giving her roughly
$2,025 with 38 cents.
Are you sure Mr. Burns recommended 4 years?
I don't believe I recommended 4 years. I think it's sewer is 6 months and the trash is 1 year. I'm sorry if I miscommunicated that, but that's what the listing is. And again, if you want to go beyond that, you should make some kind of findings.
Move staff approval?
Of the 4 years?
Yes.
Are we going to add some kind of finding to kind of protect ourselves to some degree? Would it be appropriate, what you said before, to add it to this motion?
And maybe even add that the city made the mistake and the district personnel followed the city's classification reasonably, and that resulted in additional money to the district that was not justified by the usage of either sewer or trash.
Amend my motion to include Attorney Burns' comments.
Question on the motion then. Can we also include language to ask the city to reimburse us for their mistake?
I think that's the citizens.
Well, I think they were our staff at that time. That's why I wonder, how far did this go back? Because they were the staff when we had an office at the city.
So we know that this one goes back
A long ways.
a long time as well. But this applicant isn't asking for a refund, but we're going to give her a refund? Is that what we're doing?
I submitted a letter attached to the staff report asking for a refund. She did not state the number of years or the total.
7.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that line about.
2007.
Okay.
Then she could sue against us for not giving back.
Well, she can take the same position that Mr. Bricker took.
That's what I mean. She could come back to us and file suit against us because we just gave this money back, and we're not giving her. We're only giving her 4 years.
I'm going to move that we table this discussion, or that we table this request until we get a full accounting of how far this went back and what our potential liability is.
I would second that.
I would also.
Didn't you say it's 2007?
I know, but we don't know the amounts.
We
could go back
no,
to 2000.
you're looking at Mr. Bricker's request, not her.
Oh.
I mean, I don't want to do it until we have the whole picture.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other questions?
When would we do this? At the next board meeting or a study session or?
I'd say board meeting.
Were you looking to take action, or do you just want information? We could take it at a study session just for information, or do you want to come back at a regular board meeting?
I'd rather come back at a regular board meeting
Okay,
with
we'll come back in February.
the full opportunity to do whatever we need to do.
It's in a libelous situation, giving one request and not the other. That's why I voted no.
Well, we may end up doing the same thing. That's to be determined after we see the data.
Could we say March?
Is this not her request, though, that she asked for 4 years?
She just asked for a refund.
Just asked for a refund in general.
And is that a refund for 4 years or 3 years? Or
Well, we need to
does
get
she
that
want-
clarified. You're
That's,
right.
Yeah, that's
Right.
that's why I'm
It's got to be cleaned
want
up.
it tabled and brought back.
Let's instruct that person to come back to us with the proper.
Can we say
Could go back to 1980 or something.
It
We
go
say
back to
a date
1950,
certain?
1947.
On 47, she lived
Or
across the street.
when did we start? Is it?
Wasn't born then.
She wasn't born then.
Are we going to say a date certain to come back?
Well, whenever the staff is.
Board meeting.
We just needed, like Mike says, we have to know the limit that we put ourselves in by approving this request from Mr.
I
Brick.
think we ought to bring it back to the study session so that we have any questions we can continue
Well, Alan's
to
not
work
at
on
the
it.
study session usually.
If we're at a board meeting, she's a member of the public, and study sessions aren't always available to members of the public. I'd rather we at least have it at a meeting where she has an opportunity to come address us if she needs to. That's all.
Okay, let's call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's get this cleaned up and down the road. Okay, we just did that. Number 11, consider giving the general manager the authority to auction a 2015 Kenworth Bacall sewer combination truck.
I move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Good luck as an auctioneer. Yeah, I'm sure you'll do well.
Receive and file general manager's 2019 performance goals and consider approving his proposed 2020 performance goals.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before you are, so every year the board will assign a number of goals to me, and I have 12 months to get those done. So there are 2019 goals that you signed to me, and the achievement level is attached. And then I also presented to you for your consideration goals to consider for approving in 2020. Vice President Uten did have a question regarding my 2019 goal that was to achieve 75% diversion. And the question was, did we resubmit a report to the board? And my answer to that question is yes. Staff submitted a report to the board on July 17th, 2019, and it was staff's proposal to provide the solid waste collection services to all multifamily units within the city. Once we presented at the board on July, we presented to the city in September, and as you all know the results of that. So the question is yes, we did present it to you.
The goal read that there was a plan to be developed between sanitary district and the city. And I think you're addressing one element of a potential plan, but I don't believe a plan was developed to, there's got to be more elements than just one element. If the city had said, okay, you can have the multifamily units, that wouldn't have maybe moved the needle at all.
If I could just get more clarification on my future goals, then because that's that's a plan, and if we would have implemented the multifamily units, I think we could have got to 75%. If we were going to take over on the multifamily collection system, we could probably get to 75%.
But realistically, the city's not interested in that. Am I right?
Correct.
So it's a moot point as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I need a little more understanding. If that is the case, what I'd like to do is hear the background, for that single item being the plan anyway, and how and how we could get to 75%, just with one single item. And it may be the case.
Well, that almost sounds like you need to go to the study session.
Yeah.
So I'm seeking direction from the board at the 2020 performance goals. Are you comfortable with those? And if not, if there are any other goals you want to add to that, let me know.
Bob?
No, it's okay.
I say we receive and file these, don't we? Or do we have?
I would like, if it's okay with the board, maybe take action that you on the 2020 performance goals. If you support that, and then yes.
You're asking for a motion to
Yes.
approve it? I'll move the approval of the general manager's 2020 performance goals and congratulate him on what I think was a really good 2019 year, and the goals that you were not able to achieve were certainly beyond your control, and I appreciate that. Did have one question though. Have you reached out to the new WeRock representative to make sure that we're still interested? You know, Kelly is gone and they've named her replacement. So I'd encourage you to reach out so we get that back in our plan. But my motion is really to approve his 2020 goals.
Okay, Bob.
Tying in with Mike said, at the Waco, was it the FBI, and there's a new organization running it in Orange County, it's the FBI and the Homeland Security, that they wanted to know if you needed to contact them for more information. And they're set up, I'm not sure where their location is, but that was part of the presentation.
Yeah, we get monthly reports from them. I know which organization you're talking
Yes,
about.
you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, Bob?
I would suggest one additional goal. What I believe is extremely important, especially in light of Rob Hamer's passing, and the consideration for what we're going to do for engineering in the future, and that is that a time date certain needs to be put. I would like a goal that for a master plan to be created, and I think it should be relatively quickly. The path to determine that may be to be determined, but RBH and or an outside firm, I think there needs to be some discussion about how and when, and that ties right into a later.
Don't you feel that would come up with the strategic planning?
No.
No?
Not unless you put it in as a strategic plan goal.
Well, you could pretty easily.
I don't care where it goes, but I want it in the general manager's 2020 performance goals. And
Wait till the strategic plan. We're not meeting on the strategic plan until April. And what Bob's saying, I think, it'd be a top priority goal to get that taken care of. So I'll amend my motion to approve the 2020 goals, to add goal number 11, to give some impetus to getting the general manager position or the engineering situation corrected or moved forward, or however you want to put it.
master,
Thank you. That's what,
master plan.
that makes sense, Scott?
Yes, I've got notes. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Where are we? 13? Performance measurement.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President.
Program.
So this is just, again, for your receive and file. This is our annual report for our performance measurement program. I won't go into details in the staff report, but obviously the big concern or issue was obviously we did not achieve the goal of having fewer SSOs per 100 miles than in Region 8. We had a considerable amount of SSOs in 2019, and we attribute that to the Valcol truck, which you just approved, getting auctioning off, being down for 132 days, and that put us behind in our cleanings, and so then we had to play catch up. So we are catching up now, so I don't anticipate, I hope we're not going to have nowhere near that again in 2020, but there are some positive things we did in 2019, specifically our citizen engagement. I think we, with Gina and Nabila and Angela and all the staff, are really engaging well with staff, using social media. Our newsletter is getting good press. So I think we're doing really well in on citizen engagement. Also, I believe in transparency. I think if you compare us to most public agencies, I think we're one of the most transparent, open governments in California. So I'm very proud of that. So if you have any questions, I'm available to answer those questions. I will be submitting a award nomination to ICMA for this program. So hopefully we'll receive an award for all the hard work we've been doing and continuing to improve. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Scott? What?
Receive and file this, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll receive and file item 13. 14, district engineer.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as you know, with heavy hearts, and we miss Rob Hamers. Suddenly and unexpectedly passed away after 38 years of service to the district and to the wastewater profession. So the decision tonight we're seeking is where do we go from here? I do want to introduce to you Michael Benish, audience, and he's been named the new president of Robin Hamers and Associates. Michael and the staff are going to continue with Rob's legacy, providing engineering services to private clients and to public agencies. But staff is recommending to continue using Robin Hamers Associates on a short-term basis. On a long-term basis, staff is recommending hiring our own engineer, in-house district engineer. In your staff report is a salary survey we conducted with principal engineers and senior engineers in special districts in Orange County to get an idea how much we would pay a district engineer. And what staff is recommending is really in the median top third, which will be $126,076 to $170,128. That's the salary range, and that's in the top third. And that is to, I believe, again, to try to attract and recruit highly qualified candidates. What staff is recommending on the short-term basis is that we continue using Robin Hamers Associates. They are, for example, they would continue finishing designs for President Pump Station. I know that was a question by Vice President Uden, who's going to design those. I'm recommending that Robin Hamers Associates continue doing that. I'm also recommending Robin Hamers Associates help us with the sewer master plan, and also help us with the as-built on the Canyon Pump Station reconstruction, Indus Phase 2, and then also assist us with the sewer siphon evaluation projects. That's on the short term. And also, as you know, with Robin Hamers Associates, they do provide inspection services for us. Mr. Bob Martinez does that for us. We have our engineering technician who's training to be an inspector. Bob is kind of mentoring him. He's been mentoring for the past 6 months and will continue doing that for another 6 months. My recommendation is to continue using Bob through July, August of this year. By then, our engineering technician would have all his certifications and training done by inspections. He'll also have all the vehicle and equipment. And my recommendation is that he would inspect all projects, private developments and public works projects. And we would continue using Robin Hamers Associates as like an alternate inspector. So when he's on leave, we can call in Bob or someone else from RBH to help us for inspection services. If the board approves going with an in-house engineer, then my recommendation is to hire a recruiting firm. And there are several recruiting firms in California that do just that. They recruit executives in the public sector, city managers, general managers, department heads. This would be like a department head. So they would recruit that. I list several recruiting firms, and Mr. Mosier also gave a couple in his comments as well. These firms would develop a nice, attractive brochure. They'd have it on their websites because when executives are looking for positions, that's where they go to. They go to these websites and they look where the open positions are. They also have contacts out there. They know who are looking for jobs, and they'll submit those brochures to them. They could also assist us with, if we want to do a behavioral study, try to find the right fit for someone in our organization. They can do that for us as well. And they also do any kind of vetting for us. So they really take the burden off us and do all the nitty-gritty work of hiring an employee. That budget is around, I believe, between $25,000 to $30,000. We would do an RFP, but that's what I would recommend budgeting. We are anticipating saving a little bit of money in the engineering budget, so there is money to do that. Yeah, and then also if you do hire, I do want to mention, if you do hire the district engineer, this person would be in with one of the offices that Second Chance Orange County currently rents. So we would have to see if they'd be willing to move to another office. If not, we would need to terminate their lease, which we have a 30-day notice, and then the new engineer would take that office. That is all I have, and I am available to answer any questions for you.
I just want to make a comment. I can see, I'd go along with the short term, but I can see taking it to a study session and being able to talk this over a little more rather than everything we're saying, because this is just like this way and we're not really talking to find out where we're at.
Well, it could be longer than 6 months. We'll see how Hamers and Associates continue to work with us, and then that gives us time to evaluate what's happening. You know what I mean? I think that's a smarter way to go.
I would agree. I saw something in either the agenda report or the staff report, or someplace that your vision is that the district engineer would plan and design and do the specs and that takes 10 people. Lots of times it takes 4 or 5 different disciplines on one project. Hamers and Associates is in the position and knowledgeable about, how to do that. They've been in the business of producing plans and specs forever, and that is, for half my life that's what I did, and it's an enormous responsibility. So I agree wholeheartedly that we've got to come back at a study session and have a chance, to vent this further. The duties you list for an engineer are just, it almost looked like 5 engineers, and I applaud you for writing all this down. I think it's something that I have to understand where these came from. Were these responsibilities by the RBH had in the past, or what? But to produce plans and specs and design pump stations and projects in-house is an enormous responsibility. I, for one, agree with Director Schaefer that we need to vet this a lot more, and it may take more than one study session. But I think you've listed a lot of stuff, and when I read it, it's just mind-boggling that one person could come in and do all that. So I think the beginnings is, like Director Schaefer said, is that we said this just came to us, and it's too early to make this kind of decision.
I wouldn't even have a study session for 3 to 6 months to see how things are progressing. You know what I mean? To get reports back from Hamers and Associates. We don't want a study session next month. We want to find out what's developing, because things change. You know what I mean?
And I think we need the master plan, to get some focus before we make this kind of a decision.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think it's not budgeted, but I think you've tried to develop the logic for how we can pay for it. But this is it's a very large responsibility.
Well, do you think we need to be more specific on the date that we're going to?
We're already going to hire continuation with Hamers and Associates for a minimum of 6 months, that Scott said, but it could be a year, it could be 2 years, I don't know. We need to evaluate it as it goes.
Why couldn't we look at it after 6 months as an evaluation of where we're at and what's gone on?
Well, I think we need the master plan to even determine, where we're going in the future and with what.
Don't you feel that up and in there before the 6 months?
It should be as soon as possible.
That's what I mean.
That would help me make the decision about whether we do it in-house or continue with RBH, or we can. We've got a lot of projects coming up. We've got $3.5 million in projects that we're looking at. And we need to continue to pursue them, and each year we put $1.7 million into that coffer. And we've got another $5 million sitting in the asset management program. I mean, I agree that we need to continue the laundry list of projects that RBH is working on, and then take time to make this decision in the future. I'll shut up.
That's exactly what I said.
Do we have a contract with RBH? What's the time expiration of that contract?
I don't think there is a time expiration. I think it's
That's
an
what I was
indefinite contract.
thinking you were going to say. So, as it stands right now, we're just following or continuing with what we had with Rob. Is it a gentleman's agreement, or do we have?
Well, RBH is a corporation, and so the corporation survives an individual's demise. Yeah. And we haven't checked the formalities of the I guess we have a new president that I haven't met yet, and we probably want to check and make sure the formalities were handled properly, and the right delegation and the right resolutions appointing.
I don't have a problem with.
We have a contract.
Okay, I don't have a problem with letting it continue and I'm uncomfortable putting a time saying in 6 months we're going to determine it. If we find something in a month that they're not doing, then we need to address it.
The contract it can be null and void if we find reason.
And I obviously don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think so either. My point with the 6 months is we don't want to evaluate in the study session next month. We want to evaluate down the line.
Sometime in the future.
I think the less disruption we have at this point bodes well for the district, but at the same time, I don't want to be caught shorthanded and have to make an emergency decision to go out and hire somebody else. And I don't think that's going to happen because we've got some knowledge that's already there with RBH that we're going to count on. So, Scott, I had just a kind of a strange question, but on the district engineer job description that you posted, everything's in black except one word. Way down at the bottom, you have in red, retain as built sewer plans and add CMSD. What?
I forgot that.
Okay, I thought there was some magnanimous reason for retention that I didn't know about. So that's just.
Yeah, just something I didn't.
A keystroke.
Accept the track or something like
that.
Okay,
Can I request that RBH have someone present at our meetings to discuss the study sessions and these meetings like Rob did?
Yeah, and I think what I put in my note, Alan and I need to get together. We need to say, okay, do you need to adopt a resolution making Mike district engineer? Then he sits here. I don't know. It's something we need to sit down and talk where we need to go, and then we'll bring that back. Yeah.
That's something that should come back maybe at the next study session for evaluation.
That would be a good start. I think that would be a good start.
We need to be informed as things go on.
Right.
Okay. We understand the course of action, or does it require a motion?
I think we're just tabling the idea of a district engineer right now as an in-house until future time.
Okay. Well, the management has a direction.
Yes.
Let's move along to engineers report.
We got one more item.
Oh. Where am I?
Oh, it's consider naming the district facility after Rob Hamers.
Oh, it's up here. They're hiding it from me.
So, Mr. President, so this was requested by the board to bring this item for tonight's consideration, and that was to name a district facility after the late Robin Hamers. I provided in your staff report some list of facilities. Obviously, the options you have are basically the pump stations, the yard, and HQ. The yard seems most fitting only because he put so much effort into constructing our first yard. If you do that, just wanted to share with you the signs. This is the sign on Wilson. Unfortunately, this sign it's very unique. It's made out of tin or metal, and the manufacturer is out of business who did this. And you'd have to, like if we were going to name it Robin Hamer's Yard, you'd have to remove that first section and redo the whole thing because the wording's like indented. It's like some kind of metal work, and so it could be very challenging and very expensive. And I don't know how much that is. Go to the next picture. The one on Fairview, now that's very easy. We can definitely replace the word district and put Robin Hamer's, and I've got the bid from the contractor did this sign, and to put Robin Hamer's on there, the cost would be $1,424 to manufacture and install the sign. So this one's not a problem. It's the one on Wilson that has some challenges. In any event, whatever you want to, if you want to name a facility after Robin Hamer's, and then staff can proceed with naming that, and then his daughters and family will be back in Southern California on May 21st and 22nd. So it'd be nice to have a little ceremony with them where they could show where their dad's name is going to be on the facility. So just need direction from the board. If you want, do you want to name a facility after the late Robin Hamer's? And if you do, what facility do you want to name them after?
Mike?
In reading Mr. Mosier's comments, I totally disagree with what Mr. Mosier said. To sit and wait to do this, I think the man left a legacy with this district that needs to be recognized, and I'm not going to sit and wait to do it. I'm going to move that we name the corporate yard the Robin Hamer's District Yard. I'm not worried about that sign. We can worry about that later. Most people see the sign on Fairview anyway, so I like your suggestion of getting that done. So my motion is to name the district yard the Robin Hamer's District Yard.
It's been moved and seconded. You have a question?
Yeah. I'd like to ask Scott. I think it might be appropriate. I'm not against renaming the district yard. I think we need to still say Costa Mesa Sanitary District, and in memoriam of, there's a way to do it.
Yeah, it would say Costa Mesa Sanitary District, Robin Hamer's Yard, something like that,
But it is the building itself, does it present a way, to put his name on it?
Yeah, talking to staff this morning, in addition to having the signs, our vision was we'd have a plaque inside the building with his picture on it, and it kind of explained the history, who he is, what he did. So that way, when we're all gone and the new occupants know who he is, his legacy still remains. So I'm
thinking of the outside of the building. Rather than change the Costa Mesa Sanitary District Yard, have the building and a sign, on the outside of the building. Is that a potential?
Look at it. I don't. If it's something. If
it's not my motion. My motion is to name the whole district yard the Robin
thinking about a
Hamer's.
substitute motion.
If I may, Mr. President, if it's in the building, I think it'd be difficult for the public to see.
I don't want it in the building.
No, even on the outside of the building, I think it'd be difficult for the public to see because of it's enclosed with all the walls. You have to, if you want the public to see the name, my suggestion is to put it on the signs, the one on Wilson and the one on Fairview. If you put it on the building, it's going to be hard to see, especially when people drive by.
Part of that cost, putting up something inside the building, like when we're gone.
That wouldn't be that much. Yeah.
That's your plan, though, to do both.
Inside the building, yes. So someone inside there, they would know they'd know who Robin Hamer's is.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yes, we did. Motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Jim, I'd like to also ask staff to come back with a policy for naming facility. We do not have a policy for naming facilities like some other special districts in this town. And I'd like some kind of report or something, Scott, that says, let's come up with a policy for how we name buildings or what we can name and things like that. I think that fits.
The agencies that I know about, the policy is they don't name them. Orange County Sand District has taken one exception to that.
You know, like Mesa Water names all their wells.
Mesa Water can do what they want.
I understand that, but I think it's appropriate for us to do the same. I'd like to see what staff can come up with.
Well thought out.
Okay, let's move along. Treasurer's report. Or wait,
Engineers report.
engineer's report.
Receive and file on the capital improvement projects.
I move approval if it's required. It's received. I'm very good at the receive and file one.
That's received and filed. Treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mr. President, board members. This is your quarterly review of your portfolio and its performance. Looking at the markets today, the Dow closed down 454 points. At one point during the day, it was down almost 550 points. And there's been lots of discussion as to what's really driving this, and the experts are all kind of mixed on it, whether it's coronavirus driving the markets, whether it's impeachment driving the markets, or whether it's just simply there's been a very big run-up over a number of periods, and investors are taking profits. Later this week, some of the big names are going to be releasing their earnings reports. Apple, Facebook, and Amazon are all going to be releasing earnings, and we may see what ends up happening with that. Looking at your portfolio, as of December 31st, the portfolio was earning 1.84% on a duration of about 1.5 years. We had a very busy December. We had two investments that were called. One Fannie Mae, it was a 5-year at 1.95%. We were only just a year into that security, and we also had a farm credit that was called, a 4-year farm credit at 2.12%. We likewise were about just a little under a year into that security. We had one negotiable certificate of deposit mature at 2.12%. That was a 1-year certificate. And we replaced all of those with a variety of investments. We bought two separate two separate Freddie Macs, 2.07%, 2.1%, both 5-year. We bought a home loan bank, a 5-year at 1.97%, and a certificate of deposit with Sallie Mae Bank, a 3-year CD at 1.85%. I do anticipate that with the way the markets have been going, that we do have a fair amount of securities that do have call features on them, and that we're in that period with rates coming back down, that we're going to see more and more securities be called, and we'll start to replace those. With that, I'm available for any questions you may have on your investment portfolio. This is an action item, so when you're done, we do need to
I
approve
have a
it.
question on that, but what is the interest rates now for a purchase of a new home? What does that drop to?
For purchasing a new home, we really don't track that.
I'm just, because you're in the business.
As best I can remember from the last time I looked, they're hovering right around the little over 3% for the 30 year.
3%'s been right at around 3 and some change. Yeah. What happened to T-bills last year, Mark?
Pardon me?
T-bills. What happened to T-bills last year? Is that a trend?
No. It's we've had last year. There was a strange with the rates coming down and the Fed easing the 3 times that they did. We saw the yield curve get inverted to where the longer rate yields were less than the shorter term yields. It happens periodically with various market cycles, so it's just something we have to roll with as it happens.
And the OC fund took that weird little towards the end of the year, according to your chart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right at the beginning of December, the OC fund just, see what I'm saying? That a little, quite a drop.
Correct. The pool, the Orange County pool, is a little bit shorter in duration, so it is going to be a little bit more market sensitive as rates go up and down than us. We're a longer duration than them at the 1.5, about the average 1.5 year mark. And that's actually pretty short for us at 1.5 years.
That had nothing to do with Megan and what's his name moving to Canada? I mean, that didn't disrupt anybody anywhere?
I don't believe so.
Okay, any other questions? No,
Should make a motion on that?
Yes, please.
Motion that we approve the report.
Second.
moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Should we go to local meetings or go back?
Attorney's report.
I went to the
You need the attorney's report first, Jim.
President, could I give the attorney's report on 227
Sure.
Harbor Boulevard? This is a matter that comes before you. This property used to have a hotel on it, and our district engineer, our late district engineer, Rob Hamers, started this report, and I'm finishing it for him. The developer came to us and asked that we vacate the sewer easements on this property because in the old days, we used to require that the easements be dedicated to the district. Now we prefer not to have our lines on private property that we have to clean and maintain. So we are accepting ownership in the right of way. So this is something that we would be in favor of because the property's been demolished. They're going to put a new development in there, and we would like them to put private sewers in and connect and have it be a public connection out in the right of way. So this is something the district would want. The owners have asked us to vacate that. They're agreeing to take the lines out, the sewer lines. We have, under the provisions of the code, done a public hearing. We published and noticed the site, and that's for the vacation of the easements, and that matters before you today, so you could conduct a public hearing on that to vacate the sewer easements. We have a few remaining items, so we don't have all the details buttoned up, but if you could make the findings and adopt the resolution and vacate the sewer easement, then we can button up the getting the indemnification agreement done and find out the exact name of the legal owner and do some of the follow-up work after that. So tonight we're asking that you vacate the sewer easement and adopt the resolution and authorize signing of the quitclaim deed by the President and Secretary.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify.
Mr. President, could you conduct a sort of like a public hearing and ask if there's any comments on that before
Okay.
we take that action?
We, the public has heard what
Just if there's any members of the public that wish to speak on this item, it's been noticed.
is there anybody who'd like to speak to the board on this item?
Seeing no one, then you can go forward
Yeah.
with the resolution.
Seeing no one, we'll go forward.
We need a vote.
All,
Adopting the resolution.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now we'll move along to local meetings. OCOG met last week, and we didn't have enough for a quorum. It's about the third time in a row. So they're urging us to, encourage everybody to show up at those meetings. Sorry. No, you had a valid excuse, but at any rate, that's,
Feeling, Jim, that those of us that are some people just don't bother to show up. They don't let anybody know they're not coming. I'm getting that sense.
yeah, you're right. Some people just do what they want to do without advising them. But at any rate, they're kind of in dire straits, and we got to get that taken care of. And then what else? Orange County sand. We had some. What the heck? I lost here. But well, at any rate, there was really nothing that significant. Bob, can you?
No, it was
It was really a fast meeting.
good meeting.
So,
There were a few capital improvement projects. Most of them were on the consent calendar.
yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next Santa Ana River Flood Control Agency.
I attended the meeting last Thursday. It was a short meeting because the county couldn't be in attendance to give their presentation. But we did get a call from the Washington, D.C. advocate, Jim McConnell. He was on vacation, but still responded in a phone call. And he was saying, since it's a political year, he doesn't know if Congress is going to be able to pass a WRDA bill this year. The WRDA bill pays for, it gives money to the construction of the Santa Ana River and the Westminster Watershed Channel. The report from the Corps was supposed to be due in January, but it's been postponed until May. And that's what we've been waiting for, to find out what their plan is for the Westminster Watershed. Congress is, but they have the money in the Corps of Engineers to pay for this year and next year for the improvements at the for the Santa Ana El Prado program. So they have money to take care of that. February 4th is supposed to be the budget to Congress, but that's the day of the State of the Union, so they're not sure if they're going to have the budget ready for that. And the LA District has enough money to take care of those other items. That was our presentation that day.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions of Art? ISDOC.
I just want to remind you that the 30th, which is Thursday, is our luncheon at ISDOC. And if you can come, you should be coming, because Kelly is the speaker, and he's the one who writes for, he does all the Orange County Register of Voters, and he has his thumb on everything that's going on. So he's going to be giving a good report on what's going on. So that would be important. And then let's see what else. ISDOC was just notified, which I'm sure all of you were too, that LAFCO has a seat open for anyone who's interested, because Jim Fissler will be termed out in March, and I'm sure he's going to go again, but then we don't know who else is going to go. And Sandra Jacobs got the letter, so I'll be hearing about that. And aside from that, everything, ISDOC is doing a workshop. We're paying $1,000 to do this workshop on 700 Forum, which is really neat. And so that if you don't know anything, or even if you do know something about 700 Forum, it's free, and you have the chance to hear what's going on and write down what you want. March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. You can remember because St. Patrick's Day. And so, yes, it's at MODOC. So, and it'll be good because it'll give us a chance to better understand what's going on that forum. And then I did want to throw this in, congratulations to Mike, because he's just been reelected to SDRMA, and his picture is up there as I'm sitting there at the conference room, and the manager of SDRMA was talking about it, and I thought, oh, I got to remember that one.
Yeah, glad you did.
Yeah. So anyway, congratulations. I think that's
as president again, correct?
Yeah, so he's president again, which is exciting.
Wait till I give my report, and you're not going to be happy. Go ahead.
So bad. Okay. The rest.
Arlene, do you know what time that Form 700 meeting is?
No, I was afraid you were going to ask me. I'll find out and I'll text you.
They'll let Gina know that.
Yeah.
Chris Palmer had was
Yeah.
kind of heading it up.
And it's March 17th?
March 17th on St. Patrick's Day. And then if you have to have a form in for 460 or 450 or for 425, which means you have a committee like I did, and you have to have it in by the 31st of this month, or it's $10 a day fine after. So, just want you to know.
I can tell you they mean business.
Yeah, tell me. Last year I had to pay a fine.
And the letter comes from district attorney.
Yeah, it's
I realized then they meant business.
very important. That's about it.
Okay. Where are we here? Mike?
Well, since Arlene spoiled the news,
I'm sorry. I didn't.
I'm not sure why, but I was reelected president of the board for SDRMA. I guess I'll just, in our board meeting this month, things are kind of in a tough situation. The reinsurers that we use are telling us California is not doing very well, so we can expect to see some changes in the rates. I don't think you're going to see rate increases, but we're going to have to look at some of the discounts that have been given. And we were looking at a thing, there's a minimum contribution. When you're an SDRMA, if you're a very small district, you have a minimum contribution or minimum premium, if you will, of like $1,500. But then you can earn $1,000 for getting safety equipment, and you can get a longevity discount, and you can get all these other things that they've been doing for you. So in essence, we were paying districts to be in our program, which hurts all the rest of the members of the pool because you're paying. So we're working on, if you're at the minimum premium, you're at the minimum premium. That's it. So we're and it was amazing how much money is going out the door that. So we're going to finalize some things next week at our next board meeting, but I don't see any effect on our district in terms of premiums. But Diana, you may have to dig into the bank a little bit. But we're finding that we need to put the burden on some of the districts that are causing detriment to the pool. They need to start paying their share, and that's what we're going to kind of try and hammer out next week. I'll keep you apprised of whether our rates are going up or not. I don't think they will. Workers' comp is doing really well. I mean, the workers' comp market is fabulous right now. It's the property liability that ain't so good. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Other meetings qualifying for reimbursement? Or did you get?
Went to Waco, the Water Advisory Committee meeting, and they're continuing to discuss the contaminants of emerging concern. One of them, there's a whole family of these things called PFAS and P whatever, and they're coming to the sewage treatment plants, and in our case, going over to Orange County Water District to the groundwater replenishment system, and they strip everything out and they send it back to the Orange County Sand District. And so these chemicals are found mainly in around airports, military bases, and they're used in fire retardants, and they're used in all kinds of things. Like if you buy a fries from McDonald's, it's the plastic in that little dish has PFAS in it. So I can't tell you what the chemical really is, but you wouldn't remember if I could. But the northern wells, like the city of Fullerton has a number of wells that have had to be closed because they have exceeded the state's limits on this particular chemical. And the state is probably, the concern by these people we're speaking was that they're going to ratchet the numbers down, which mean even more wells are going to have to be, the clientele of those jurisdictions is going to have to notify that this chemical's in their drinking water, which is kind of drive a lot of city folk crazy. But anyway, we continue to get these reports. The Orange County Water District has one of the few local laboratories capable of measuring at the level that the state's looking at. And the problem is every time you get a $1 million piece of equipment and it can measure lower, then the state lowers those levels. So there's a lot of wells in northern Orange County. I think there was 22 identified or some number that has this chemical, and they're at a level that they probably don't have to notify the public yet, but some of them have had to. So it's a chemical that's driving the industry crazy. The expense to treat those wells, presently those wells can be put in the water system and maybe it dilutes it out. But the expense to treat them is something like reverse osmosis. It's expensive to treat those systems. So this is a chemical that's going to drive the water industry. Is driving the water industry up the wall. It was a fun technical presentation. And half the water people in there were still asleep. Anyway, it was a fun meeting because I'm a technical person.
Jim, I also have four of us attended the liaison meeting with the city, the school district, and the water district on Friday. And there's some interesting things that popped out of that. First thing, that the Orange County Fairground, they have trailers that come in for the fair, and they don't know where to put them, and they're asking for help for placement of these trailers. So some, different people threw out their ideas to them.
It's like the carnival.
Carnival
trailers.
The Ferris wheel takes like 20 trucks.
20 trucks.
For the fair, so they need places to store those. So I don't think we had many people throw out great ideas, but they mentioned because the school district owns some property by Banning Ranch that they could possibly put those trailers.
Yeah, good luck.
Well, the school district owns that property.
Yeah, I know.
10 acres back there.
So I mean, that was one of the ideas that came out, and we didn't say anything as a board. We just listened. We don't have any place to store anything. One of the things that popped up is the city's vision for Fairview Development Center. That's what is interest to everybody. The state of California has requested the city of Costa Mesa build 8,000 units in 8 years. Is that the right total? 8,000 units? 11,000.
Yeah.
11,000 in the next 8 years. And the city is proposing that they're taking tomorrow to the state the little idea to build 1,500 units at the Fairview Developmental Center, and with 311 for veterans housing. That's how many veterans in Orange County that are homeless. 200 for permanent housing, a workforce housing unit of 1,000, which includes affordable housing, and they want 25 acres for open space and other amenities that people can. Try to be like a little community. So they're basically talking about 1,500 units in that area. But as you read in the paper in the Daily Pilot, they're expecting possibly someone to purchase that property for 11,000 units, which would be 30,000 people in that area, and there's no regress and exit. There's only one street, so they're not sure how that's going to happen. But that was the main topic of the cities, and we talked about our sandbag location and at the corporate yard, and to bring your own shovel because someone stole our shovels. And then, did I forget something, Gina? Board members? That was the main.
No, we did alert them that we have some problem with the sewer system maintenance in Fairview.
Right.
We've had some historical problems, and the state has not given us any help.
Another interesting point with the Fairview Hospital, there's only 2 patients left there. And
2 full-time patients.
Full-time patients, yeah. And so the thing is, they're doing all this money, they're doling it out for the maintenance, all the people involved. So they're going to have to cut back on all that. And I think our timing is perfect to stay on top of what's going on there for the simple reason about the pipes and what's going on for us. Because it's perfect. If this comes, it's not going to happen overnight. They got to take it up to Sacramento first, and they got to do a lot of.
The state's going to do what they want to do, basically.
But the governor has already said that he's considering the federal funds, federal properties, that maybe there's other recourse for them than just the idea to stay federal. So I think it's kind of hand in hand.
Okay, any questions? Anybody else have old business or new business?
Comments?
Oral communications and director comments?
I have a couple of comments. One is, don't forget there's a leadership conference that CSDA is having in San Diego. And it's going to be on April 19th to the 22nd. And Jim and I are going, and Mike is going. And I don't know about the two of you, but you need to tell Gina. So, yeah, check with her. See, the sooner we do it, because right now they've got the hotel rooms down to $179 that they're going to pay out for. So that's good for us. So, and it's almost full. So, you can always say something, but, then we'll be stuck with it. And then the other thing is, I've been elected to the finance committee for CSDA.
You're good with money. That's great.
So, and aside from that, I will be going to Sacramento this next week on the 4th and 5th of February.
Could we make a board resolution that Arlene be in charge of getting our fees reduced from CSDA?
Did you hear that?
Yeah. No, I can't hear that.
Jim, I had a quick comment. Obviously, we're all touched by what happened yesterday, and just to go on a public record to give my condolences to the Altobelli family, who Coach Altobelli, Coach Alto at Orange Coast College, was a real rock in our community. I mean, he never asked for a lot of publicity. He never got a lot of publicity, but we had a gem at Orange Coast College. Man coached baseball there for 27 years, won 5 state titles, was the all of baseball coach of the year last year across the country. But the tragedy is John perished along with his wife and his youngest daughter, or his oldest daughter, and that leaves 2 sons and another daughter without their parents. And I know everybody's focused on Kobe Bryant, and that's tragic, obviously very tragic. But there were some other people on that, including Kobe's assistant coach, who coached at Harbor Day School here locally. And so just condolences and a lot of respect for some people that we lost yesterday, local people.
Maybe we can adjourn the meeting and Rob Amers and...
Mr. President, we have a closed session to do first.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Back to closed session.
Okay. At this time, we're going to go into closed session. We're back in open session. We had a discussion about the compensation for our general manager, and I've been authorized to negotiate a final number with you. So it's ASAP, as soon as we get to it. Anything else?
You could just wait after the meeting and talk to him.
You're going to adjourn in Rob's...
Wait
Yeah,
till
yeah.
all of us leave.
Yeah, we got to wait.
Wait till all of us leave, and then you...
I'm going to adjourn this meeting in the honor of Kobe Bryant and his family and friends who perished yesterday in helicopter crash. And also remember Rob Hamers once again. We loved him dearly.
And the coach.
And the coach at Orange Coast College.